We have an episode 1, which means we have a little intro. This will be my number 2 review, and I try to make at least 3 videos in a week. At the moment I have Undone, which I saw now till episode 5, which I highly recommend. This show is so good. And I reviewed the first episode of The Boys, which was very good too. It will rotate in the following order: Undone, Dexter, and The Boys. I have seen Dexter when it aired, so it's not my first watch, but rather revisiting. I remember the end was very bad, and there shall be a new season if I'm not wrong, so it makes sense to review it from the beginning, since I don't like to start with the latest season. There are some little changes of how my reviews will be structured. I will review each episode, as always, but I will not add a summary since I talk more in detail about everything anyway. This means we just start with the review, and in the last episode of the season I will add a conclusion part. You will always find the timestamps in the description box down below. That said, let's jump into the review. This review contains spoilers. When we see Dexter the first time, we see him driving his car and hear his inner monologue. I like that the car gives the feeling that he is cut off from the surroundings. When we see him, it is all in the darkness, while on the streets people are in the light, which shows us the juxtaposition between two worlds. The inner monologue does help to separate him even more from everything. The juxtaposition is even clearer when we see his first victim. You have everything lighted up, everything is white and bright and clean. The singing boys give us the impression of innocence. While Dexter is in his car in the dark, the bright light in the car underlines that there is something wrong, that Dexter means danger. When this guy gets in his car and Dexter starts strangling him, we see that he is strong, determining and in full control. We see before the car stops 3 excavated graves, which, if we never have seen an episode of Dexter, would make us think that Dexter will get 2 more people for the graves. We have then the scene in which Dexter tells the guy that he shall look, and we see what he is seeing: this guy's victims. And here is the show doing something so good. It shows us this pedophile, and Dexter does look next to him at this moment as would he wanna get revenge for this guy's victims. So we are automatically on board with Dexter because of his crimes. We then learn that Dexter understands it, but he would never do as he did, never kids. After the guy asks why, Dexter answers that he has standards. He then takes him out and Dexter does his hobby thing. And we see that Dexter is more fucked up as we thought he would be. So it's not just revenge. We are now 6 minutes and 17 seconds in, and we learned a lot. Dexter is a killer with some standard. What this exactly means, we don't know yet at this point. He killed a criminal, and since he said when he drove around that this is going to happen again and again, we can assume that he only kills criminals. Which makes it easier for us who have morality to follow this character. And yes, the inner monologue helped, but still, I would count this as show, don't tell. After this it jumps to the morning and Dexter is piloting a boat. And here we get now exposition in form of an inner monologue. We learn that he isn't normal, that all his human interactions are fake. We also see that he has, when he interacts with this guy on the boat, that he is often out here and has contact with people. We learned that he had foster parents and they are not responsible for how he is. We get in a flashback of him as a kid in which his foster father Harry speaks about his problems. and we see through this episode and the series how their relationship developed and how Dexter got to be the man he is. And I don't want to even imagine to have to deal with a kid like this. I mean, wow. Wow. When Dexter comes home, he gets greeted by one of his neighbors, which shows us that he's a likable guy. We have this through this episode, so I will mention this, I guess, one more time when it comes to donuts. We then see in his place his trophies, and we learn of the code of Harry and that this code is satisfied. We don't know exactly what the code is though. Parts of this code seem to be to cover up his tracks and to think like a cop, since Harry was a cop too. I like that he calls himself a monster, so he is not sugarcoating anything. His sister calls him and he comes to a crime scene. He has no problem entering since he is working for the forensics. We learned that she is with the police too, and there is a serial killer who had his third victim in 5 months. Deborah has ambitions and wants to get promoted to get into homicide. He offers his help and takes a look at the crime scene. We meet Masuko, who is a forensic as well, and we meet Angel, who is the detective who works on this case. Dexter learns that there is no blood on this corpse. I love how he's staring at this as if he's in some kind of trance. Dexter's excitement and fascination don't look so creepy or strange next to Masuka and Angel, who are kind of excited but in a far different way than Dexter. When he leaves the crime scene, his lieutenant does make a wink to Dexter, which is kind of weird if you think she gets right now interviewed. But maybe there are no cameras. I didn't saw any. In his monologue we learned that he doesn't understand mating rituals. I like that he calls it like this, mating rituals. He then is at the police department. He offers people donuts and does make casual small talk. If I wouldn't have the inner monologue and the knowledge of him being a serial killer, then I probably would buy in this as well, as long as it is on the surface level. It is very well made. We then get introduced to Sergeant Dokes. He has no problem saying what he thinks about Dexter, and he gets the creeps from him, so the dynamic between these two can get interesting. We also get shown what Dexter's speciality is in the forensics. Dexter has a new possible victim, and a part of his code seems to be research, so he breaks into this guy's apartment and is searching for proof. There is no list that tells us point 1 do research, point 2 blah 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 blah, point 3 and you get what I mean. We see the code through watching Dexter's actions. We cut then to the evening and he explains that he doesn't understand the appeal of sex, and he says that it always seems so undignified. And since he has to look normal, he has to find a fitting woman, which he did. That leads us to meet the last person introduced to us in this episode, Rita. They are dating for 5 months and she has 2 kids and Dexter seems to be good with kids. Rita had a tough relationship with her last boyfriend, and because of this she is completely uninterested in sex, which works for him perfectly. So they are on a date and they go to a table and smash food. He then criticizes in his monologue that normal people are so hostile because they have no problem with taking a hammer and publicly smashing their food. I guess it makes sense for Dexter to think that way, since I can understand that there is not a lot of difference for him between an animal and a human. I never ate crab and I don't knew that this smashing thing is a thing. How do you call this? Let me know in the comments below if you know this. Rita does this too, and when he says that normal people are so hostile, we see her in this bright light, and he says that she is not that way. So even though he hasn't feelings like a normal person, he sees in her something beautiful, wholesome, special, and even innocent. He then notices a crime scene. He goes there and there is the fourth victim of the serial killer. After the date, Rita is asking Dexter if the police will catch him soon. He doubts it and says that the killer is an artist. He explains that his technique is incredible and is like showing her kind of on her leg, and he seems to be kind of aroused by this. Not by showing her, but talking about this guy. Rita misunderstood this and leaves the car. He is at first clueless about what he did wrong, but it makes click. This should be a warning sign for Rita, I guess. This show is like The Boys, fun in a dark way, which I like. He wants to focus more on his work and does more research. He then got the last proof of having the right person. He says then that he has to be patient and to follow the code of Harry. We then get a flashback with an older Dexter. His father found Dexter's knives and on one of them is blood. Harry speaks of an understanding they had that Dexter comes to him when he has this urge. His father then has the idea to use criminals for dealing with these urges. It is well made. We have here these close-ups. I like that the light on young Dexter's face suggests that he is open and that he speaks the truth. Harry then tells him that something happened to Dexter which changed him, and at this moment young Dexter's face is in the shadows, as would we see now this dark side while his foster father speaks about this side of him. And when they speak about that his urges will get stronger, we are even closer on both characters' faces. It is like we are with them while they whisper to each other. A part of the code of Harry is good preparations, and Dexter termed this process as intoxicating, which is understandable. I mean, not getting intoxicated by imagining to kill, but to have this euphoria if you look forward to something you really like to do. Deborah shares the theories which she worked on with Dexter while they ate together in front of everyone. Is it not interesting that Lieutenant LaGuerta makes fun of her? Not just with the kind of jobs Deborah is doing because she works as an undercover prostitute, but also with her theory as a whole, which makes sense at least to look into. But the lieutenant is against this. Not only men are bad. Then after this, Lieutenant LaGuerta is calling Dexter in her bureau and Sergeant Dokes isn't satisfied with Dexter's forensic work. After he explains why he thinks he's right on this, she says that this is a bit of a push, but Dokes shall check it out still, just in case. Wait, does she just listen to Dexter because she wants to have some business time with him? Sergeant Dokes can't believe this either. So, Dexter prepared everything for his hobby. The sound here is so good, the atmosphere as a whole is great. This building is in the process to be built. It's humid and hot, the guy is sweaty and I can imagine the smell too. So, Dexter did him, and what a bloody mess. I like that Dexter uses this kind of mind games and surprises them. Dexter is cleaning stuff up and his phone rings. Rita wants to see him. So Dexter is in his car. I guess he has the corpse of the guy in his car. Then a bright light comes from behind and drives next to him. It is an ice truck. What a coincidence. But the framing and the end with Dexter's refrigerator suggest that Dexter is on this guy's radar for longer. The truck turns around at some point and throws a head on the Dexter's car. Probably the driver, not the truck itself, threw the head. Just me guessing. Dexter calls the police and this means good news for his sister because she was right. Lieutenant LaGuerta makes a move on him and he dodges it awkwardly. I like this. I guess Dexter doesn't have to worry about the body he has in his car since nobody mistrusts him but Sergeant Dokes, and he's here too. So if Dexter would have bad luck or did a mistake he could be in danger. Then finally he arrives at Rita's place. She was worried because he didn't show up, and it is so fascinating and comfortable watching them interact like this, which I think is on purpose. Dexter gets saved by the bell, by a call of her boy. When Dexter is arriving at home, he calls it interesting, and it seems that he thinks of this as something positive. He then notices a puppet on his refrigerator, and he has more puppet parts inside, which makes him excited instead of worried. This was a very good episode, and even though we got introduced to a shit ton of characters, it wasn't overwhelming at all, and I'm so fascinated by how little I do remember of the show. I remember the faces of the characters, but some parts of the plot are not at all in my head. I remember there will be something very difficult for me in season 4, I guess, but that is it, and that Admiral Adama will be in the show at some point. It did a good job in introducing us to the main character and sets up future conflicts and has some interesting dynamics like Dexter and her sister or him and Sergeant Dokes. Their inner monologues are interesting as well. I do not regret having started a review of this show. So, this was my review of episode 1. What did you think about this episode? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on Twitter, you can find the link in the description box down below. Thank you for watching, have a nice one, you take care, see ya!
Just like me. Empty inside.